Does anyone know what programs or cults were active in 29 Palms in the 70s? My dad grew up in 29 Palms with a brother and a single mom who was in the Air Force. They both ended up Mormon fanatics living in Utah, where they met my mom and had me. After my dad died when I was a child, my grandma started abusing me. I have shattered memories of the basement of a church where I was abused. My dad died when I was very young, and what is interesting is that his death was unexplainable. Up until a few months ago, I was under the impression that he died of a brain aneurysm. I am in my 20s now, and I have lived on my own since I was 18. I went no contact with my mom because she is an abusive narcissist, but I talked to her once a few months ago. She said, "I've told you this countless times. Your father did not die from a brain aneurysm. The doctors could not explain why his brain hemorrhaged. They never found evidence of an aneurysm. I swear, my mom never told me this before." Last year, my mom had me admitted against my will to a psych hospital after I was assaulted. I think this was all a setup now. The hospital is owned by the government, and most of the patients were in the military. In fact, I was the only patient there that wasn't in the military or a veteran. My mom brought me there against my will 4 times, and they injected me with drugs that drove me crazy all year. I finally managed to get away for the past few months. My roommates told me that a man in a suit asked me where I was and had been stalking the house. My psychiatrist from the hospital is why I'm interested in 29 Palms. His grandfather died in 29 Palms when my dad was a teenager. Also, almost all his immediate family works at NASA. He is the only one in mental health. Does anyone know of any programs or cults my grandma and father could have gotten involved in the 70s in 29 Palms? My ancestry on my dad's side is easy to trace because I have an original name. I'm from England, Germany, and France, but mostly France. I tracked to a high Baroness family back into the 16th century. Be me, Fayetteville, NC. Buds tell me about creepy and abandoned Rockefeller estate. Say they have been several times. Each time, strange things happen and they leave. Rocks being thrown near/at them, etc. Decide to go with them in my truck. Path there is off-highway and requires an off-road capable vehicle. Tacoma makes it through with slight difficulty. It is dark as fuck, and we begin walking around and exploring the old buildings. Nothing too crazy, just collapsed buildings and asbestos-lined basements. The whole compound is a circle, so you can just follow the trail and you will end up where you started. With this in mind, we park the truck on exit road facing the way back to the highway. Fast forward, we are ready to leave after being slightly disappointed with the lack of spooky shit. Get in truck and slowly make our way back to the highway. We are quick to notice that as we leave the field and get deeper into the woods, the trail is different somehow. Decide to keep going until the trail takes us to an old bridge over a rapid stream. There was no bridge or stream when we first came down this road. Shitting bricks, we check Google Maps, which tells us that we are on the highway. We cross bridge on foot and find a house on the other side. The stream split there, and you could only cross by a large fallen tree. We climb across one at a time, using our phones to illuminate the log. Once we are all across and standing on the island, we continue to the other side of the house. See that the tree or a tree had fallen and collapsed the roof and some of the walls, exposing the basement, which was nothing but a pitch black hole in the middle of the house. No stairs, no ladder. I throw a rock, wait a minute, no sound. We are all thoroughly spooked by this Blair Witch type shit. Continue down the side of the house and find a dam that the stream is running through. On the other side is a large lake that we didn't know was there. Could not find it on Google Maps either. By this time, we all felt like there was something near us and watching. On the far end of the dam, there was a trail that went deeper into the woods. Something was off about it. Looking down into it, even with a flashlight, it was too dark, darker than the basements we had crawled down into. We say fuck that and get back in truck, throw that bitch in reverse and get back to the highway. Make it back to clearing in front of compound. We decide to try the trail in front of us again, It's either that or go back into the compound that is fenced in with zero way out. Throw truck and forward and pray that nothing happens again. This time, the trail is like it was when we arrived, and we make it to the highway. Looking back in the rearview mirror, I see a light floating in the darkness of the trail before disappearing. There are rumors of weird occult shit surrounding that property. Bud's mentioned child sacrifice and a random obelisk found in one of the ruins of one of the buildings. Weird glyphs painted on a lot of the buildings as well, inside and out. Some buildings had random rooms with no windows and heavy doors with one handle/lock on the outside. Creepy shit. Any cults in Colorado? Be me, back in 2016. Turning 23, decided to take a trip from Central Texas to Colorado Springs, where my uncle lives for my birthday, October 31st. My friend Sam and I set out for Colorado on the 25th and get there on the 26th. Spend the first 4 days doing touristy shit, going to head shops in Denver, Garden of the Gods, and Pikes Peak in that order. So, the night before Halloween arrives, we're sitting in my uncle's backyard, around a fire pit smoking. Mention that I haven't been camping in a while, and my friend jumps at the opportunity, and immediately starts planning a camp out for the next night. Halloween arrives. We start packing for a camping trip, throw in some blankets, a tent, and some cooking supplies, and flashlights. Borrow some bear mace from my uncle, and we headed out towards White River National Forest, specifically Henry Mountain. No joke, that gave me chills just typing it. We finally get up the mountain around 11 a.m. Campsite set up by 12 p.m. with a rock fire pit in the middle, surrounded by 2 logs, and my tent facing away from the mountain and forest. Fast forward. Nighttime. Don't remember what time exactly. We had been sitting, smoking, and talking since dusk. Starts to get too cold for a Texan's blood, and we go to the tent to warm up. I wake up sometime later in the dark, no longer high, and freezing my balls off. Realize we packed like idiots and are thoroughly unprepared for a night on top of a mountain. Wake Sam and say, let's go to the Forerunner and sleep back there. Agrees in less than a second. I unzip the tent and take a knee to tie my boots while my friend starts gathering up the blankets and pillows. I look at the fire pit we had made, but it looked messed up, like someone put an M80 in the ashes and half of the rocks from the pit were gone with no trace. I shrug it off. I fell asleep first, so he probably did it while I was sleeping. Running to the Forerunner from the cold, I threw in the blankets and pillows. Sam jumped in, and I closed the hatch. An hour later, my friend is snoring, and I feel wide awake. I can't get the fire pit out of my head. It was so uncharacteristic of him. He wouldn't mess with the fire pit that we spent the whole afternoon making. I eventually give up and decided to have a smoke, so I moved to the driver's seat, but just crawling from the back. I take a look around and it's nothing but darkness. It was like my windshield had become a portal to the abyss. I put a headphone in my right ear and grabbed my pipe to start loading it when I heard something. Paused the music and leaned forward, using my arm against the door to steady myself. I was listening for anything out of the norm, and my friend's snoring did not help, so I pushed his head and he kinda woke up. I heard him ask if I was smoking. I hand him the pipe and say, shut the hell up and listen. Suddenly, I heard a click. Sam heard it too. I could see the reaction on his face. I turned back to look and put my arm back against the door. Then I felt it in my right arm. A slight vibration in the door every time I heard a click. Then it hit me. Someone was trying to open my door. Immediately, a million thoughts run through my head. In a second, the first word was fuck. Feel it happen 2 more times and just sorta watch my door. In the span of 5 seconds, right after the second pull, the door behind me was pulled, then the hatch, then the back right, and finally, the passenger side door. I was shocked and speechless like never before. I had seen nothing, and it happened so fast. I remember this cold feeling in the pit of my stomach as I looked at the passenger window. As I was looking at the window, all of them were tinted practically black, so I could not see anything, but I heard 3 small but definite taps. "That's fucking enough," I said out loud. I turned to my friend and told him to hand me the keys. As I did, they realized we were in the car, not the tent. Flick on the headlights and felt my hope die a little. 20+ people in the forest and around our tent. One of them was pouring gas on our tent. A few others were pulling up the tent spikes. For a second, they were frozen, like deer in headlights, and I wondered how long they watched us for. Throw my car in reverse and go down the mountain so fast that somewhere along the way I broke the exhaust on my 4Runner. On the way down I realized they were going to light the tent on fire and drag it off the cliff. Spoke to the police, but they found nothing, not even our tent and cooking shit. Had my uncle weld my exhaust and I left for Texas that afternoon. Haven't been back to cursed Colorado since. This happened a few months ago. Be driving with GF late at night to a party. Party is in some cabin/cottage in the middle of nowhere, relatively off of a lake. Long winding road, very little directions/sense of where we were going. Come over a hill on gravel road. Suddenly Bridge Hill becomes asphalt. Completely silent, and there is nothing but road and overhanging trees. Incredibly eerie, nothing but silence, road and woods. Radio does not work in my car. Road names are all pretty strange. We are pretty lost, trying to get directions from a drunk friend. Girlfriend mentions how scary it is, and I quickly shut her up because I don't want to even think about it. Driving around, see a graveyard with a crudely wooden sign that says cemetery on it. Straight out of a horror movie. Go around, turn to see jagged nativity scene, deep in the woods. Take a turn down the wrong road. Realize we are lost, and we are looking for a place to turn around. Come up on another hill. Look onward to see a circle of about 8 hooded individuals, sitting in a circle, with some large heap of God knows what in the middle of them. Faintly bad stench, like whatever in the middle was rotting. Medium-sized animal maybe. All turn to face us. GF screams, and I hightail it in reverse and skid my car around, driving back the way we came. I am scared shitless, and we eventually find our way to the party. Try to tell our friends, but they are too plastered to even take notice. Tell them in the morning, and my buddy who owns the place tells me about various cult activity that happens in the area. Sacrifices, bestial lust, satanic rituals. Says he's heard rumors, but has never actually seen it. One of the scariest things that has ever happened to me. Alright, this one deals with fucking natives, and oh my god, I mean like really native natives. Be about 19, still living in Northern Sask. One night, I'm sitting out on my porch with my drinking and shit. See someone driving a truck at the end of our property. We have no neighbors. What the fuck? We live like 40 kilometers away from the nearest house. They drive into the woods on our dirt road. We get shotguns and shit. They don't approach us. They just go into woods. Dad tells me that it's native shamans or a cult. Whatever, Dad, you're hammered. Next morning, he tells me they sometimes go in there for God knows what. Grandpa tells me he has seen them around a campfire and they used to steal our livestock. Next day, I take the quad and a rifle to see what they were doing on our land. Follow the fresh tracks in mud for about 5 kilometers. Found where they stopped. Fucking blood all over everything. To my left was a couple dead chickens, and on the big rock in the center, on the little clearing, was one of our cows. It's been gutted, intestines hanging out and shit. It's still alive for fuck's sake. Shot in the head. There is other animal parts around and shit. Immediately called the cops. They tell me they know about this shit. To this day, we still see them sometimes, and I have shot at their vehicles on multiple occasions now. Me, bro, and close friend go on 3-week hikes/camping trips in glorious PA mountains. Have trip/trails planned out and all the gear packed. Always bring guns. I take AK pistol and Glock 22. Bro has a nugget and .357. Friend has set me .308 in 1911. Get to first marked camp for the night, arrive late. Setting up camp in dark moonlight very creepy. See large bonfire off in distance. Ignore it, since we are not that far away from another trail. Camp set up and ready to make a fire. Hear loud groaning, followed by animal screeches, coming from area of large fire. Goes from screeches to bloody screams. That does not sound good. Bro says we should go see in case it was an animal attack. Creep up with rifles. Get about 150 yards away from large fire and see a group of about 40 plus people all circled around a bunch of deer tied up. Everyone is in a dark red cloak. Some are drinking blood from the deer, others are stabbing them. Hear chanting. We all look at each other. It's a fucking satanic cult. Quickly and quietly go back to our camp and tear the fucker down. Move camp as far as we could. Go to where the bonfire is, a speck off in the distance. Sleep in a large leafy tree, taking shifts sleeping. Morning comes. Last night fucking sucked. Did not get to cook last night, and we did not plan on cooking once we were up. We all agree to go quietly check out their camp. Make sure it's safe to continue our trip. Leave gear tied up in tray. Get back to our old campsite and slowly approach the cult site. Fucking blood everywhere. Several deer bodies hog-tied and fucking ripped to shreds. Pentagrams everywhere around each deer body and on every tree circling around their camp. Mark down site to report. Hear footsteps off in the distance. See one man about 80 feet away in one of the cloaks from last night. Starts chanting some satanic shit. Pulls a bottle from his cloak and starts throwing what appears to be blood. We all start running. Hear him shouting, "We will find you." Go back to camp, grab our shit, and run to one of the main highly traveled trails just to avoid shit. Get to main trail. Had to bag our rifles. Normally, this trail is lit up on a Friday afternoon. There should be people everywhere. Not a fucking soul to be found. Something is not right. Travel on main trail, trying to get to our next checkpoint where a ranger post is. Halfway there. Fuck, you smell that? Smell of burning skin, fur, hair. See dark smoke off the trail a little. Wow, this is fucking great. More cult shit, more blood everywhere. Dead bear, half on fire burning away. See a few cultists trailing behind us. Brother is getting skittish, takes Nugget out of bag and fires 3 rounds off in their direction. They're in off. We get about 3/4 of the way to the ranger post. Hear screaming. Sounds like a person. Fuck, I'm done with this shit. AK comes out. Glock gets loaded with 22 round mag and plus ammo. Hear lady screaming and calling for help. Find her. She is tied to a fucking tree. She is all bloody and bruised. Untie her. Say come with us. Ranger post is not far. See ranger post, thank God. Truck is outside. Means someone is there. Start yelling we need some help. 2 rangers come running with guns drawn. What the fuck faces on all of us. They see the girl and ask what happened. Explain the whole cult thing. Rangers say they know but aren't able to locate them. Have teams out looking. They say all the trails got closed down due to 5 hikers gone missing. Girl is one of the hikers. Give rangers the location of the camps we saw and say cult was following us. Rangers say we have to spend the night due to cult cutting down trees on the driving path. Fucking great. Nighttime comes and ranger gets a fire going outside. 1 in the morning. Get a call over the radio that one of the ranger teams has found their site. 3 rangers come back to the post. Hear them talking. They found one of the missing hikers dead, missing his hands with cut marks everywhere. We ended up getting flown to a station in one of the towns the next day. Asked a shit ton of questions by police. Guns got taken away for 7 days due to not being allowed on the trails. Try to avoid that trail area from now on. Lived in a small town most of my life. Still live nearby. The town has a large cult, somewhere around 5,000 to 6,000 members from around the world. I live close enough that in the summer, you could hear them chanting and playing drums. Any more info on this? The members are usually older, 30s and 40s. They all remind me of hippies. They all smoke pipes and love wine. I've heard they also drop acid and X a lot. I've had a few friends whose parents were in it. Please, is there anything super dark about it? There are rumors that they have weapon caches on the compound. They have armed guard stations around the compound as well. This I can confirm is true. The leader is very wealthy and owns a few businesses in town and gives a lot of money to the town, so she can pretty much do what she wants. I've also heard that they believe the reptiles will emerge from Mount Rainier to war with humanity. This, I've been told, is a small percent of them. The cult has a website, but it's all fluffy and nice and doesn't really tell you all that much. Reminds me a lot of Scientology. Question. I met this girl about 6 months ago. I was traveling in Mongolia and we met in a hostel. The girl was from Chile. We got kind of flirty and she once did a thing to me. She started touching me in different parts of my body, telling me to stay put or to turn around with a grave tone. When I tried to speak, she would tell me to shut up, and I was obedient because I was curious and because it felt very good. I then felt very weak, but well, like an ecstasy. My movements were slow and confused. She told me, I knew there was something special in you. After she was kind of shy, but then she started telling me things about me and my life. Nothing that I didn't know, but it was pretty accurate. When I asked what she did, she didn't really give me an answer. She told me she had some kind of power passed from her mother and grandmother, and she also told me something like, I wouldn't call us witches. Another thing that she told me was that I would feel a change in me in the near future, but I don't think I did. After that, we got in a sweet romance and passed a week together, and we never spoke about that again. She was very hot, and she had a boyfriend she never cheated to. I'm not really a beta, but not at her level. I'm pretty sure her attraction was to the something special in me. Is there someone that knows about these kind of things? I know I'm not giving you much information, but that's all I have. Maybe there was some cult or something in Chile that someone can link my story to. Maybe it's nothing. She just touched me in places that made me feel good and weak. Any idea? I also have a cult wood story that happened in Russia and should be 100% true. You can even try Googling it. There is a big ass LARP happening in some woods of Russia. There is a group of 7 people who play Crusaders or whatever at the LARP, so they have mail or plate armor, metal helmets and all. They arrive early on in the forest, so they decide to just chill and scout around. While walking in the forest, they hear singing or chanting nearby. The Crusaders remain silent and decide to sneak in and check it out. They see some people in black robes in the middle of a symbol holding a knife above a cat that is being held down. Obviously, some sacrificing going on. The Crusaders have an idea to save the cat. They surround the cultists and suddenly burst out of the woods. One guy in shining plate armor screams, "In God's name, stop, you blasphemous satanic pigs." They charge the cultists fast, yes, with buffered swords. Cultists are terrified and run away. They manage to catch at least one. He starts crying. Don't remember exactly how many they did catch. Turns out, some sweaty, edgy teens were try-hard fake Satanists attempting to sacrifice a cat with trembling hands. Imagine the surprise in those teens when they saw these Crusaders burst out of the bushes in the middle of a random fucking forest in Russia. I mean, what are the chances? Bumping with another cult wood story I read here that still makes me shiver. I don't have a screen cap, so if anyone knows what I'm talking about, correct me. Euro Anon decides to take a longer, unfamiliar trail during his hike. Ends up lost as it starts to get dark. Hears people, sees fire in distance, walks towards it. 15 plus men in robes, chanting around large bonfire. Kinda creepy but really lost, about to call out, before he sees 2 naked women sitting on a tree branch about 30 feet off the ground. Women screaming and cursing at the men. Men start pulling torches out of the fire and lobbing them at the women. One makes contact and the woman catches on fire as though she was soaked in gasoline. She falls off the branch and is brought up short by a noose around her neck. Anon freaks out and hits the dirt. Woman is still alive, struggling with the rope and on fire. Other girl goes up in flames. Anon can't watch, sneaks away. Ashamed he could not stop it, finds the road and walks back to car. Dead man up and file police report. They found the bodies. Matches similar site found in the past. Even delivered a link to a news article. Something strange happened in the woods surrounding my home yesterday. Got off work at 2, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Best fucking schedule. Got home, got my knife and hat and went outside. Cut away from the trails and headed into the marsh/swamp areas. After a few hours, I sit and drink some water that I brought. Sitting on a fallen tree in an area where like 20 trees fell last year. Hear crunching foliage. Where I am is cloaked with leaves and bushes, so I am not easily seen. Plus, I'm wearing my green jacket. See and hear people maybe 200 yards away. Can't make out what they are saying, but I can see that they are wearing black robes. It looked like a black graduation gown, and the sun way reflecting off of them. Don't move for a while until they left. Don't know exactly how long. Wait for a while even after they left. Go to where they were. Weird symbol on the ground and on tree. Drawn on the ground but carved into the tree. Look around and try to remember the area to come back to it. Start to leave. Sun is setting at this point. On way out, I look downhill and very far away. I can make out one of them standing with its back to me, just standing there. Wait for a minute or two. Still just standing there, unmoving. Nope. Get home. Gonna try and go back today or tomorrow. What do you think it was, Axe? My most dangerous encounter was not even life-threatening, to be honest, but I did receive a few good hits to the noggin. I was with my sister's boyfriend, who tried initiating me into this broken form of nihilism cult they had going on. He had all his buddies invest into a paper street house kind of apartment where they would live under one roof and one philosophy. When I had gone into a debate with my future brother-in-law about keeping my niece out of his insane, anti-consumerist-based lifestyle, he and his friends chased me out of the house. By the time I made it out the door already, one of the cowards hit me in the back of the head. Whether it was at the command of my future brother-in-law, I don't know and don't care. We have forgiven each other, and he was mature enough to take my advice. My niece stays with my sister, while her crazy father lives with the few remaining members of his super special secret fight club. Posers, man. Now, this is an interesting question, as interesting could relate to many aspects in a cult. Some cult members I've recorded acted like contributing citizens of society when outside their cult dens. Funny thing is, some of these cult members had mind-blowingly contradictory practices, such as disturbingly violent rituals and inane ideals even a child would not be stupid enough to swallow. Then there was a cult that I've documented that acted crazy in broad daylight, almost begging others on a street in Grand Rapids to join their odd organization. What is so fascinating is that when I entertained them and got inside their group cabin, they acted like high-class members of America, perfectly normal people just wanting to enlighten others in their spiritual cause. But to answer your question, the most interesting cult I would say I've investigated was this group of teens who planned on digging up haunted and infamous bodies at a place called Oak Hill Cemetery at Coldwater, Michigan. These rowdy group of kids did things I refuse to forgive. There is a point to which one has to lay down their fun and games in order to give respect and commemoration to spirits of past lives.